1 Timothy chapter 6. If anyone teaches a different doctrine, he is puffed up with conceit. 1 Timothy chapter 6 concludes Paul's letter to Timothy, providing instructions on various matters, including the relationship between slaves and masters, the love of money, and the pursuit of godliness. Paul encourages Timothy to fight the good fight of faith and entrusts him with final instructions. Exegesis by sections and verses. Verses 1 to 2. Instructions for slaves and masters. Paul instructs slaves to honor their masters, especially those who are believers, and to serve them faithfully. He emphasizes the importance of treating masters with respect, so that the name of God and the teaching may not be reviled. Verses 3 to 10. Warnings against false teachers and the love of money. Paul warns against those who teach false doctrines and have a love for money. He emphasizes that godliness with contentment is great gain, and warns against the desire for wealth, which can lead to temptation and ruin. Paul highlights the importance of pursuing righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. Verses 11 to 16. The good fight of faith. Paul charges Timothy to pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. He encourages him to fight the good fight of faith, holding to eternal life. Paul reminds Timothy of God's sovereignty and the charge that God has given to him. He tells Timothy to keep the commandment without spot or blame until the appearing of Jesus Christ. Verses 17 to 19. Instructions for the rich. Paul addresses the rich, instructing them not to be haughty or to set their hope on the uncertainty of riches, but on God. He encourages them to do good, be generous, and share with others, and that they will be storing up treasures for themselves in heaven. Verses 20 to 21. Final instructions and farewell. Paul entrusts Timothy with a final charge, to guard what has been entrusted to him. He tells Timothy to avoid profane and idle babbling and the contradictions of what is falsely called knowledge. He ends the letter with a greeting and a benediction. Overall summary. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, Paul provides instructions on various matters, including the relationship between slaves and masters, warnings against false teaching, and the love of money. Paul also encouraged the pursuit of godliness, instructions for the wealthy, and final instructions for Timothy. He advises slaves to honor their masters and serve them faithfully. Paul warns against false teachers and the love of money, emphasizing the pursuit of godliness and contentment. He charges Timothy to fight the good fight of faith, and entrusts him with final instructions, to guard what has been entrusted to him. Paul addresses the rich, urging them to be generous and set their hope on God.